folks, I'll tell you, Kyle and I are saddened actually, and this is why it's our calling. But we're saddened by the fact that most retailers, especially retailers, small businesses, it runs people ragged, and it's running their lives rather than them running the business.
Do you feel the pressure to grow your business, but doing so feels a bit like drowning? Welcome to Slow Growth Business, the show for business owners and leaders to quiet the noise and lead your business to success, one day at a time, slow and steady. If you feel your business is running you and you're ready to run it, you've come to the right place. Now, here are your hosts, business coaches Jimmy DeGroat and me, Kyle Bullock.
Folks, I apologize for our audio the past few podcasts, and it will not be that way again, as far as we can help it.
Yeah, I think we're hunkered down to our regular systems again. You know?
Yes, we're hunkered down to our regular ways. What do you want to chat about this week, Kyle?
Well, we got a good one. I'm going to throw your way, and who knows? This might be multiple podcasts because it's something that we're seeing and we're hearing
Sounds
right
juicy.
in the
Yeah.
zeitgeist.
Okay.
So I'm going to put a scenario together, and then I want you to help give the first steps because I think it applies to a lot of our listeners. It certainly applied to me at one point. So imagine I am the owner of a business, successful little business. When I got in a business for the first time, or I started the company, it was me in the driver's seat, doing the thing in the front, doing the thing in the back, taking care of all the stuff, and then eventually I start adding more people to a team. I start bringing people into the fold, but I still feel like I'm running around with my head chopped off, putting out fires every day. And I'm looking at my team going, they feel the same way. And ultimately, I'm told that I need to have better management, whatever that means.
Right.
I don't even know what that means. You say it's better management. It sounds nice. But look, I don't even know what the first steps I should take because all I've ever known is how to do this myself. And I have no concept of what you mean when you say better man. I don't know what the first steps are. So Jimmy, in my situation, what would you tell me would be the first steps to really build management in my existing company?
Well, last summer when I was riding around on my lawnmower, mowing the lawn, of course, I was listening to the E-Myth Revisited. And that
Classic.
I don't know how ancient that book is right now, but it's a great book. And he uses a great analogy of a lady who owns a pie shop, and she started making pies, and uh, pretty soon she's pulling her hair out because she's got a thriving pie business, but it's more than thriving; it's running her life, and she's going crazy about it. So one of the first things I think that we need to start doing is we have to answer ourselves the question, what do we want? What do we want personally in life? How do we want to live our life? How much do we want to work at the office or the store or whatever? Um, how much, I think you ask an amazing question. How much is enough? How much money do we need to make? How much is enough? So that we just don't endlessly go on that wheel, looking for the more, whatever that is. And then define what would our business look ideally? What would it look like ideally 10 years or 5 years down the road? What's my dream business? And is that too many questions to throw into the first
It's a
step?
lot. Boy, you have me thinking a lot about the future, what I want, kind of existential thinking,
Right,
right?
right.
So let's say that I sit down and I do write it down and I dream of it and I'm going to look at it and go, man, I would love to be at more of my kids' games. I'd love to have not an overtime schedule, right? I'd like to have a regular working
Hmm.
schedule.
Right.
I'd like to make a good living, more than I'm making now. okay, so I see it in front of me, and that's a nice dream, but man, it seems like a pipe dream. What do I do with it now that I have it in front of me?
Well, I I know you know the answer to this,
Of
but
course.
the thing is this: you and I both know that there's magic in 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 writing it down. There is magic in that because you're putting it out there into the universe, whatever theories you subscribe to, you're putting it out there, and you're shooting for something. So writing it down, I will tell you, is a first major huge step. And if you write it down, I'd go out and get a cake and celebrate because most people don't write it down. They never think about it. You and I both know this because we ask people, what's your end game? What's your out? Never thought about it. Have no idea. So I would say, end of podcast number one, write it down for crying out loud, or you shape your dream. Think about it. What do you want? I think a lot of people don't even think about it. They just think, well, dad had this shoe store and I'm just going to take over the shoe store and I'm just going
Yeah.
to keep doing what dad did.
Well, and I want to throw this. I'm going to jump out of the role playing scenario for just a second. I would add one thing to this because
Add more
we've
than
seen
that.
it where people write down these ideas or they think about the ideas, and it sounds great, man. I'd love to get to that point in life. I'd love to get to where I'm not working so much, I'm making more, blah, blah, blah. But it seems like a pipe dream because that destination is way that way. And I don't even
Hmm.
know the first step to get that way, right? And here's how I would add to it is that while you write down what you want in life, out of your company, out of your job, out of your role, out of your life, whatever it is, when you write that down, then write down some non-negotiables. So you could even label it, this is what I don't want out of life,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Exactly.
We talked about this last week about being a frog in a pot of boiling water, where where you're in it, it's lukewarm,
Hmm.
and then it slowly
Yep.
comes to a boil, and you don't really notice that you're boiling alive because it just you slowly acclimate to the pain, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So you gotta maybe also add into your vision and your dream what you absolutely don't want, right? So here's
Okay.
some prompts to think about. What's the amount of work that you refuse to, like the amount of time that you refuse to spend at the store or at the business?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
You keep saying you have to. No, no, no. Tell me a number that you say, I will not work past this much, period. Okay. There's an idea. Um,
Okay.
what would you fire somebody over? Might have to, we've
Okay.
talked about that recently, but
Yep.
what
Yep.
would make you have to part ways with somebody? At what point, number three, what point would you pull out of the business because it doesn't make enough money for you? We've
Mm.
talked about not having, whatever enough is, but the flip side of that's also like, how long would you take losses?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some time, there's money, there's that relational aspect that these are my non-negotiables, and you write those down next to the vision that you foresee. And then when you look at it, you're going to ask yourself, are any of those things happening to me right now?
Hmm.
If not, then we can tell ourselves, okay, man, relax. This is not happening to us right now. But you may also look at it and go, actually, that's exactly what's happening to me right now. And if it's
Right.
a non-negotiable, I gotta, I gotta stop. I gotta get it out. And maybe the act of getting it out of your life will be the very first steps to get you on the track to where you want to go.
Yeah. You know what? As a follow up to this, let's talk about later at a later podcast. Okay, this is getting into it, right? What do I do now that I've been doing this for 8 years? And I have to answer these questions, which is probably more likely the case, right? All right,
Yeah.
so let's answer that now. I mean, is it okay? First thing I'm going to tell you, and Kyle's going to tell you too, because he's a psychology dude, is that you have to relax. You've got to get into a state of relaxation, and you've got to, and I mean that is however you're hearing it, whatever that looks like to you. go out in the woods, get a cabin, rent a cabin, go off somewhere, go by a beach, and just sit and be alone and really contemplate, what you want from this business and answer those questions that we both presented to you. Um, and because you cannot do that in a state of chaos, you cannot do that in a state of high anxiety with high debt and all that kind of stuff. And so the first question we'll always ask you is, is the building burning down right now? And if the building isn't burning down right now, and if employees are not running out of the door with all of your cash and merchandise, and there are customers walking into the store actually giving you money, then get away and start making these decisions and get into that good state. Where do we go from here? Because there's so many places, there's so many ways to go on this.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say that you've completed the steps. Jimmy says, write down your vision, your dream of where you want to go, what you want to be. And then I add to that, then also write down what you don't want, or what I call your non-negotiables, the things that you will not tolerate. All right. And then Jimmy says, go away with that stuff to whatever place of relaxation that is. Some people we know listen to this on a walk and they are in that state of mind. And some people need to run out and get a massage in the afternoon and then take a long drive, right? That's their spot of relaxation.
It's my spot. That's my spot.
Oh, it sounds pretty good to me right now as well. So once you're in that spot, okay, here's the psychologist in me coming out, telling you, once you see where you want to be and what you don't want to be or what you won't tolerate, then I want you to remember that if you do nothing, nothing will happen. That any movement, any change, even if it's minuscule and small, is a movement in a direction. Now, I didn't even say the right direction, because a journey like this is not one that's linear. So it's not like I'm going to go from point A to point B, and then if I just keep doing the steps as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I'm going to end up where I want to be. It's this winding journey where you're going to go forwards, backwards, uphills, downhills, valleys, mountains, peaks, and all of the rest. But I want you to remember that doing nothing means that nothing will happen. Doing something, even if it's minuscule and small, will begin to yield results. And so I would pick something from your non-tolerable list to get rid of or mitigate, and then something on your I want to do something with my life, with my business list, and do something towards it. And it can be itty bitty teeny tiny. I'm going to give you a quick example on the latter. Okay.
All right.
There's a saying.
I was going to say, let's insert movie clip from What About Bob? Tiny steps.
That's right.
Baby steps.
There's a saying in the world of fitness that when you want to get fit or start that journey, you get inundated with people who are, on your feed, who have who are doing CrossFit competitions and triathlons, and they look like Adonis, and you're just like, oh my God, that's never going to be me. The saying goes, we don't need any of that for now. The best thing that you can do is to get your tennis shoes on and take 1 foot out the door. And they mean that literally. And you know this, Jimmy, because you and your wife walk every day, right? 3 to 5 miles every day. And you know that the hardest part when it's super cold outside or the weather sucks or you're a little bit tired and you're not really with it, you got a lot on your mind. I would bet you anything that if I asked you, what is the hardest part of going for a walk every day? It's just getting your shoes on and taking the first step. Because I imagine once you guys take the first steps, it changes,
It's
right?
easy from there. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And so I think the same thing is true here. It really can be itty bitty and teeny tiny changes where you go, I'm not going to carry that line anymore. It's just too much work. I'm not going to put up with these behaviors anymore. It can be even smaller where it was like, I'm just going to ask for Google reviews from every person. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all I'm going to do
Right.
for a month. and you just do it for a month, and you've taken these steps to on a journey in the future direction. And I know I'm rambling, but I'm feeling inspired by someone that we know who, as we've looked at their trajectory for the last 6 months, it has been a journey of 1,000 small steps, not big leaps, which is the whole theme of this podcast.
Yeah,
And now that we look back with them at 6 months, we go, did you see where you came from?
right.
This is huge, you know?
I love it. That's fantastic. And that's a lot of the, what I did is I used, and you've heard this before, but I used angst as my impetus to make those little steps. So once I defined what my work life was going to look like and feel like, and I'm referring to the word scalability here. For my ability to walk away from things and feel good about it, I used angst, and that was every time somebody needed me to do something that it required me, I said, I'm going to take this opportunity to train so that I don't have to do this again. And so you've all heard me say that before, but that's one of those little baby steps. And so even if you don't define something, define that you're going to use angst as an impetus to angst as an impetus. Boy, that's either a band or an album.
That's what I was just thinking.
Movie.
It's an indie rock album from 2003.
Angst or impetus. But yeah, that's what I did. But I also went after a plan too. What we did in our business at the jewelry stores, we hired consultants to teach us and train us everything that we weren't good at, and we embraced that. But the main thing here, I guess, I want to encourage is you got to move off of the base that you're on if you want things to be different, if you want things to change.
Yeah. And bringing somebody along on your journey as well. And for the grassroots business, and we can think of so many of them that we've worked with that I think would qualify this way, where you got the owner or owners, they're running around like chickens with their head cut off every day. They're wiped, they're exhausted, and they come to us and they go, we got to find a manager. We got to find somebody. There's this feeling that they come into us with, like, if I can just find the right person, then all of this will go away, because that person will take care of all the managerial things that I'm doing. And I don't, speaking for you, I've never, ever, ever seen that actually happen.
No.
Because a person will come in and even if they're qualified, they look at you and they go, so what am I doing again? Doesn't happen.
Absolutely. You have a great little thing that you talk about, writing recipes. And we got to write, even when we find those people, we have to write the recipes that we want accomplished in the business for those people, because they're probably amazing. They're probably amazing champions at it, and you hand them the recipe and they're going to kill it, man. They're going to knock it out of the park. But if you don't, you're going to get that. So what am I doing again?
So this is so funny. I just came from a lunch with some entrepreneurs I just got to meet. They own this little restaurant winery up in Niagara.
Oh,
a beautiful little place, right? And it's like the Napa Valley of Canada. They've been in business for a long time, and so I was asking them about some of what have you learned? I don't restaurateur a whole lot or at all, so I want to learn from them. Like, what are you doing? They said the most interesting thing I think is pertinent here is in terms of managing. They said our business got better when we didn't have a chef. I said, really? Like a head chef? They said, yeah, we don't have a head chef anymore. Which would be the equivalent of like a retail company saying, my business got better when I no longer had a manager anymore.
Okay.
And I said, so what do you do for, food menus and stuff like that?
Piqued my interest.
They go, we found that this is exactly how they put it. If we write the right recipes and we train the cooks how to do it and we take care of the cooks, we have fantastic service. This is, by the way, a restaurant that this will blow your mind, okay? That because there's such a high turnover in restaurants, they're able to keep their staff 2 years at a time. Okay. In restaurants, it's like 2 months. Right? Busboy comes in, leave, right? They're keeping it for 2 years at a time, right?
Wow.
So I go, so you're just taking care of your people, right? And loving them, and you don't need a chef anymore. I said, no, if we can just train them the system and we show them what system works, and then our job is to tweak the system, then it all works. And then they're able to take off on trips like they are right now, and visit with us, and I'm learning from them. I'm going, this is exactly what's going on in retail, where if the perception is that what gets me out of the woods is I need a manager, back up. What you need is a recipe. And it starts very simply, like 3 steps. Here's a process. You sit down with someone that you want to empower and listen to and grow as a leader who cares about their title.
Right.
She said, I don't even care about my staff's title. I just care about my staff.
Yeah.
And so I sit down with them, I teach them the recipe, and off they go. How is it any different when you're looking at your journey of where you want to go, what you won't tolerate? You have the formations of a recipe. Now sit down with someone you trust on your team and say, this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to teach you how to do it now.
Yeah.
And then let them do it.
Well, listen, that's incredible. That really is beautiful. And I love that because, well, folks, I'll tell you, Kyle and I are saddened actually, and this is why it's our calling, but we're saddened by the fact that most retailers, especially retailers, small businesses, it runs people ragged, and it's running their lives rather than them running the business. And so if there's any way that you can start to be thinking about scalability, the future, the dream for your business, what you wanted when you started off, or maybe thought and didn't really, conceptualize or put down on paper. But you've gotta move towards organized management, management versus chaos. Because if you have chaos and nobody's running the roost, or nobody's working off of recipes, you need that head chef, and you're going to pay them, and you're going to have high turnover and blah blah blah. Lots of different things can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
So
let me put the cherry on this.
all right.
Because this feels like maybe the first steps of the ultimate journey of how you get a system of management. So, as you said, get them so to get in a relaxed state, be thinking of the future and write that down, what you want. I'll throw in there, write what you won't tolerate. Then just write 3 steps that you can take right now that moves you towards where you want to be and away from where you don't want to be. And then teach those 3 steps to someone on your team. Right? Would you say that's maybe the very beginnings, the hatchlings of a management system?
Absolutely. And then and then later on we'll talk about do what you do well, and get rid of the things that you don't do well. And we talked about that before, but that's kind of all part of this plan. So let's do a little series on this, how to start having a life, right? By the way, folks, this is what Kyle and I, we work with people on a weekly basis. If you want to contact us, we're more than happy to do that. We've got some amazing training tools available at trainretail.com for sales training for your staff, and then leadership and management training for your leaders and managers, and maybe yourself as well. And but then we also do individual coaching, and that's what really gets us excited, because then we get to see and feel and hear the changes. Right?
Absolutely. We love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
this is good. Let's do
all
some
right.
more of this next time and talk about the next steps next time.
Baby steps. Go take that first step on your journey.
We hope you leave this episode a little better than when you first began. If you'd like more resources to grow your business slow, steady, and consistently, check out our on-demand video catalog at trainretail.com. Or if you you have a question or frustration we can help address in your business, write to us about it. We love to help solve big, ugly problems. So hit us up at kyle@trainretail.com or jimmy@trainretail.com. Good luck out there, and we will see you next time.